Praise be Jesus and Mary. In the message of July 13th, 1917, Our Lady said, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. And so what does this mean? What is this devotion to Mary's Immaculate Heart? Let us consider the context in which he says it first of all. This came after the three shepherd children saw hell, saw the vision of hell, the souls that were in torment there, and the devils who were tormented in hell. And after this, she said to them, the children, very shocked, almost they would nearly have died were it not for Our Lady sustaining them, helping them with her grace to bear this terrible vision. And so, there they were told, you have seen hell where the souls of poor sinners go, and to save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. Here we need to think about God's mercy. Our new Holy Father, Pope Francis, speaks so much of God's mercy, but he also speaks of the devil. He speaks of these other realities. God's mercy doesn't mean that there is no hell or that there is no punishment for sin. It means that he gives us every opportunity to free ourselves from that, to return to him, to be converted. And so, this is something we must remember, that so as not to make of the doctrine of God's mercy a sort of presumption, that God indeed wishes to save us, wishes very greatly to save us, but will not save us if we are unwilling to be saved. We need to take a step toward him. He gives us so many aids. And among these aids, these helps that he gives us, is this, that the devotion to Mary's Immaculate Heart. So devotion is a very concrete means of God's mercy, a means by which Our Lady and indeed God himself wishes to save sinners. And devotion is not to be confused with devotions. Our Lady did not say, God wishes to establish in the world devotions to my Immaculate Heart. There were already devotions to the Immaculate Heart in the world. The devotion of the first Saturdays, the various prayers to Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, even perhaps later on a Mass of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart. These are devotions, and devotions are good, but devotions serve to create devotion. And so, what is devotion? Devotion comes from the Latin word devolvo. It's to give oneself, to devote oneself, to hand something over by vow. When something was given by vow to a god, dedicated to a god by vow, in ancient Roman times, they used this word devotio, or devolvo. And so this is the sense of devotion, the meaning of devotion. That it's, which Saint Thomas Aquinas says that devotion is the principal act of religion. Religion fundamentally boils down to devotion. And those persons are said to be devout, he says, who in a way devote themselves to God, dedicate themselves to God almost by vow, so as to subject themselves wholly to him. For us, these are, first of all, the baptismal vows. That this is what dedicates us wholly to God, makes us part God's property, makes us belong to God, be God's, be wholly subjected to him. So living out our baptismal vows is the Christian life. And so if we speak of devotion not directly to God, but of devotion to Mary's Immaculate Heart, this devotion means subjecting oneself wholly to her Immaculate Heart. What does that mean? That we give ourselves totally to her. And certainly it's true devotion to imitate Our Lady's virtues, to try to be pure, to seek to be pure as Our Lady's Immaculate Heart is pure. It is in true devotion to be chaste, according to one's state in life. It is in true devotion to avoid a sin. But the perfect devotion, St. Luigi Grignon de Montfort tells us, is to consecrate oneself entirely to God. And this is indeed the fulfillment of our baptismal vows. So there is no contradiction between giving oneself wholly to Mary, subjecting oneself wholly to Mary, and subjecting oneself wholly to God. And the reason for this is the Immaculate Conception, that Our Lady herself is wholly subject to God, and is indeed the way that God came to us and the way that we are to go to Him. God could have come to us directly without a mother, but He chose to have a mother. He chose to come to us through Mary. And God could have created an economy of salvation in which we go directly to God without any intermediaries. But instead He chose for us to go through our mother, through Mary Immaculate, to go through her Immaculate Heart, to enter her Immaculate Heart so as to draw near to God, so as to enter the Sacred Heart of Jesus. This is our way to God. The Immaculate Heart is our way to God. It is what will sustain us in our pilgrimage. And what we are asked is to devote ourselves to her, to give ourselves wholly to this Immaculate Heart by what is called total consecration or unlimited consecration, to give ourselves to her without reserve. And in this way we will truly be devoted to her in the fullest and most perfect sense. And it is this devotion which our Lord wishes to establish in the world in order to save souls and to bring peace in the world. The fruit of this devotion is indeed what Our Lady herself said that day, a hot summer day, in July 13th of 1917. If you do what I tell you, right after these words in which she said, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. She added, if you do what I tell you, many souls will be saved and there will be peace. And so this is the fruit of this devotion. The fruit of the devotion to Our Lady, of consecration to Our Lady, is the salvation of souls and is peace in the world. Peace because, the absence of war. If we can use sort of this crude definition of peace, that peace is the absence of war, but at least war is the consequence of sin. And so when we are devoted to Our Lady, when we live as she wishes us to live, which is indeed as God wishes us to live, then we will be at peace with one another as we are at peace with God. And so there will be peace in the world as the fruit of this devotion to Our Lady, as the fruit of this consecration to Our Lady. God made Our Lady so beautiful, so attractive, so as to draw us to her, so as to make us love her. He filled her with graces, made her immaculate, full of grace, made her like the moon that shines, as the moon shines with the reflected light of the sun, so Our Lady shines with the reflected light of her Son, of our Lord Jesus. And as the moon is very much like the sun in the sky, a very large object which sheds a great deal of light, so too Our Lady is the one most like Jesus. And so when we devote ourselves to her, when we live this consecration to her and seek to become ever more like her, then we become like that fair as the moon. We become like her, and becoming like her, we become like Jesus. So this too is a fruit of our devotion, not merely the societal advantages of having peace in the world, but also the advantage of becoming ever more like Jesus, ever more perfectly conformed to Him, through the imitation of her virtues, through giving ourselves totally to Our Lady, putting ourselves completely at her service, in whatever way she will want us to serve her in our life. Certainly, not abandoning the duties of our state in life. Everyone has duties as a husband or a mother, or as his duties in society in virtue of the job that he has or the career that he is following. But beyond this, we have, especially in modern society, a fair amount of time at our disposition, time with which we can either serve God or offend God, or we can even just waste that time, as so often happens. But if we put this time at the service of Our Lady, if we use this time to pray or to tell others about her, or to learn more about Our Lady so that we will love her more, then we will grow ever more ever closer to her, ever more like Our Lady, and thus ever more like Jesus. Praised be Jesus and Mary.